He asked for a medium-rare steak, until he was served an alien girl instead. Commander Jax Holden blinked, the bioluminescent fungi on the cavern walls casting shifting eerie light. He'd requested a simple Earth-standard meal after his shuttle had unexpectedly dropped him through what his malfunctioning navigation called a temporal spatial anomaly, depositing him not at the Eridani colony outpost, but here, miles underground in a vast, silent network of crystalline structures. The beings who found him were tall, slender, their forms cloaked in layers of woven luminescence that pulsed with their movements. They communicated in resonant tones that translated imperfectly through his damaged comms unit, mostly as formal, ritualistic phrases about arrival, alignment, and the hunger below. And now this stood before him, framed by the glowing fungi, was not a tray of nutrient paste or rehydrated rations, but a female of their species. She was breathtaking, in a way that transcended mere physical form. Her skin shimmered with an inner light, reflecting the cavern glow in complex patterns. Her eyes, large and multifaceted, held an intensity that felt ancient. She wore simple, unadorned luminous cloth, distinct from the others' layered robes. Her expression was utterly devoid of warmth, a mask of serene, almost painful composure. The offering, the resonant voice of the elder who had brought her forward translated in his ear, a stark, ceremonial announcement. Jax's comms unit, thankfully, still processed the alien language, albeit poorly. He stared from the offering back to the elder, then around at the circle of similarly silent beings watching them. Hold on, he said, raising his hands. Offering, I just asked for food, like edible matter, sustenance. He tried to mime eating. The elder's light patterns shifted in a way that his comms unit translated as polite confusion. The alignment requires substantiation. The elder intoned. Your presence is the catalyst. She is the vessel. Jax felt a cold dread curl in his gut. This wasn't just a communication error. This was something far deeper and far more terrifyingly ritualistic. He was a lost soldier, not a prophecy. His mission had been simple. Now he was apparently a catalyst for some alien ceremony involving a stoic, glowing woman who was being presented to him like a sacrifice. Look, he said, lowering his hands slowly, trying to project calm despite the rising panic. I'm just a guy. My ship broke. I need help getting home. I don't want to substantiate, or align, or whatever. He looked at the woman. She met his gaze directly, her multifaceted eyes seeming to look through him, evaluating something he couldn't comprehend. There was a faint, almost imperceptible tension in the set of her shoulders, the only outward sign she wasn't merely an animated statue. You are the one who fell from above, the elder said, the translation software giving it a capitalized, significant tone. The hunger has stirred. The Harris is bound. Jax's mind raced. Fallen from above? Hunger below? Harris? Bound? This sounded less like a request for navigation assistance, and more like the beginning of a very old, very weird story he definitely didn't want to star in. He looked at the Harris again. Her glow seemed to intensify slightly, just for a moment, before returning to its steady pulse. She didn't speak, didn't move, just watched him with that unnervingly calm intensity. He was trapped miles underground, surrounded by beings who saw him as a ritual component, and apparently he'd just been served a woman. This was officially the worst shore leave story ever. Okay, he said, trying to inject a note of diplomacy he didn't feel. How about we pause the ritual? Maybe grab a bite first? Seriously, I haven't eaten in feels like days. He forced a grin, hoping it looked less manic than it felt. The elder's light patterns remained serene. The Harris remained impassive. The cavern air felt thick with expectation. This wasn't going to be easy. This wasn't going to be simple. And he had a sickening feeling that asking for a steak was the least of his problems. The elder, named Resonant Stillness in his comms translation, remained unmoved by his plea for sustenance. The alignment must precede the sustenance, Resonant Stillness stated formally. Your arrival disrupted the quiescent state. The hunger below demands acknowledgement. The Eris Zareth is the designated vessel for the first contact resonance. You are the echo. Jax stared at Zareth. She still hadn't spoken, her stillness unnerving. Echo? Vessel? First contact resonance? Look, he tried again, feeling the edges of frustration fraying his composure. My name's Jax. Commander Jax Holden. I'm human. From Earth, I got lost. I appreciate the, hospitality, but I'm not an echo or whatever. I'm just a guy who needs a ride home and maybe a sandwich. Zareth's head tilted infinitesimally, the movement barely perceptible, yet Jax felt the weight of her gaze shift, as if processing the word human. Resonant stillness continued, oblivious to his existential crisis. The heiress Zareth is of the lineage of the deep flow. She is bound by the ritual of unification to resonate with the first echo that breaches the sealed threshold during a stirring. You have breached the threshold. You are the echo. She is the vessel. The unification must occur to appease the hunger below. Jax ran a hand over his face. Appease the hunger below? What is the hunger below? Is it like a monster? A geological thing? Is it hungry? His attempt at dry humor fell flat against the solemnity of the cavern. Resonant stillness's light patterns seemed to dim slightly, a sign his comms unit interpreted as mild displeasure or concern. The hunger is the absence. Zareth finally spoke, her voice a low, resonant hum that vibrated in his bones, bypassing the comms translation entirely. It was a sound of immense sorrow and power. Jax blinked, startled. He hadn't expected her to speak, and certainly not with that raw intensity buried beneath her composure. The translated words appeared moments later. The hunger is the absence. It lacked the depth, the ache, of her voice. The absence of what? Jax asked, genuinely curious despite himself. The sorrow in her voice was potent. The absence of connection. Resonant stillness translated Zareth's unspoken thought. Or perhaps it was a telepathic echo she couldn't fully suppress. Our resonance has faded over cycles. The hunger is the ache of that separation. Your arrival, the echo, has stirred the dormant paths. Zareth must bridge the divide. Zareth's multifaceted eyes seemed to swirl with faint internal light patterns, reflecting the unspoken weight of her duty. She wasn't just a random female. She was an heiress bound by a sacred, terrifying duty to some cosmic absence, triggered by his accidental arrival. This was more than just a cultural misunderstanding. It was a crash landing into their deepest mythology. And how exactly does this unification work? Jax asked, his voice cautious. The words sounded less like marriage and more like merging. Resonant stillness gestured towards a platform at the center of the cavern, made of the same glowing crystal as the walls. Upon the resonant heart, the echo and the vessel must achieve harmonic frequency. Through the ritual embrace, it will reveal the path to quieting the hunger. Or exacerbate the absence. Exacerbate the absence. Zareth's silent projection of those words felt cold, like a stone dropped into deep water. It wasn't just a ritual. It was a gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences, and he was the involuntary participant. Ritual embrace, Jax asked, swallowing hard. This was getting very intimate, very fast, and not in the way he'd ever envisioned spending his unexpected detour. He looked at Zareth again, really looked. Beneath the composed mask, beneath the shimmering alien beauty, there was a profound sense of duty, and perhaps fear. She wasn't being served as a gift or a prize. She was being bound to a dangerous process with a stranger, for the sake of her entire culture. He might have stumbled into this, but she was born into its inescapable gravity. His dry humor felt inadequate against the weight of her reality. Zareth moved then, a slow, deliberate glide towards the crystal platform. Her movement was fluid, controlled, emanating a quiet power that belied her previous stillness. She didn't look back at the others, her focus solely on the glowing hearth. The ritual embrace is not of physical pleasure, human, Zareth stated, her voice still the low hum that resonated within him. It is a merging of core frequencies, to ascertain if the echo disrupts or harmonizes. The translated words followed. It is a merging of core frequencies, to ascertain if the echo disrupts or harmonizes. Jax appreciated the clarification, though the implication of disruption still sounded bad. Right, he said, stepping forward hesitantly. Core frequencies, like compatible wavelengths, syncing. He was trying to frame it in terms he understood, technical terms, anything to avoid the feeling that he was about to participate in some ancient, potentially disastrous mating ritual with a luminous alien heiress. Precisely, resonant stillness confirmed. Though the comms translation added a layer of formality, his own words lacked. Harmony allows the flow. Disharmony risks fracture. Fracture. Zareth's unspoken echo this time carried a sharper edge. Like breaking glass, she reached the edge of the platform and turned to face him, her gaze steady. "You are prepared, Echo?" she asked, the hum of her voice pulling at something deep within him, something he couldn't identify. "Prepared as I can be, I guess," Jax said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Never exactly rehearsed the scenario. My training covered alien hostile encounters. Maybe first contact protocols for diplomatic greetings. Not frequency merging." He gestured vaguely. He stepped onto the platform. The crystal felt cool beneath his boots, vibrating subtly with a low thrum. As he approached her, the air between them seemed to thicken, charged with an invisible energy. Zareth raised her hands, palms facing him. Her skin shimmered more intensely now, the light patterns shifting rapidly beneath the surface. "Extend your own," she instructed, her voice a low command that felt less like words and more like a directive woven into the fabric of reality around them. Jax hesitated for a second, then raised his own hands, palms facing hers. As their hands drew close, a field of gentle warmth pulsed outwards. It wasn't just heat, it was sensation, an intricate, complex feeling that bypassed his skin and seemed to hum deep in his bone marrow. Zareth's eyes closed, her head tilting back slightly. "Release your surface noise, Echo," she murmured, the hum of her voice intensifying. "Allow the deep current to flow. Release your surface noise." Jax didn't understand the words intellectually, but the instruction resonated on a primal level. Surface noise. The anxiety, the confusion, the sheer absurdity of the situation. He tried to let it go, to focus on the warmth between their hands, on the subtle vibration of the hearth beneath them. As he focused, a strange phenomenon occurred. It felt as though invisible tendrils of light, emanating from Zareth, were weaving into him. Not physically, but on some other plane. He saw flashes of light behind his eyes, heard faint, complex harmonies that seemed to be layered over the hum of her voice. It wasn't telepathy as he understood it. It was more like empathy made manifest. Resonant frequency, core current. He felt a sudden overwhelming wave of Zareth's emotions, a deep, ancient sorrow, a fierce sense of duty, and a profound, aching loneliness. It hit him with the force of a physical blow, staggering him. He gasped, the air catching in his throat. Zareth's eyes snapped open, multifaceted irises, fixing on him with sharp intensity. The warmth between their hands flared, becoming almost painful. "Echo?" she questioned, the single word layered with alarm and something else. Surprise? His own emotions chaotic and loud. Fear, confusion, disbelief, must be broadcasting back to her, unfiltered, jarring against her serene composure. He was definitely not harmonized. The surge of Zareth's emotions, raw and powerful, overwhelmed Jax. He felt the sorrow of her answers, the weight of centuries of duty, the crushing solitude of her position as heiress. It wasn't just a mental impression, it was a physical ache in his chest, a phantom weight on his shoulders. His hands trembled as he held them against hers, the connection feeling less like a merging and more like a violent collision of incompatible forces. Zareth's composed mask fractured, revealing a flash of pure pain. Her shimmer flared violently, then dimmed, as if her inner light were being snuffed out. "Fracture," she whispered, the hum of her voice ragged now. The translated word fracture appeared, stark and alarming. Around the platform, the standing figures of resonant stillness and the others stirred, their own light patterns pulsing with alarm. "The echo is discordant," one voice translated. "The absence deepens." Resonant stillness stepped forward, his light patterns shifting rapidly in distress. "Harris, withdraw. The risk is too great." But Zareth didn't withdraw. Her grip, light as it was, felt impossibly strong. Locking his hands to hers, her eyes wide now, seemed to pierce through him, searching for something within the chaos of his emotion. "Wait," she breathed, the hum of her voice now tinged with a desperate urgency. "There is a resonance within the discord. A frequency I do not understand." Her gaze seemed to settle on a specific point within his chest, where his heart hammered against his ribs. He felt her probing presence there, not intrusive, but searching, like a blind person reading a complex surface. Through the link he felt her confusion, her fierce, intellectual curiosity, overriding the instinct for self-preservation. The hunger below was not a creature, not a physical entity, but a spiritual or energetic void, and his arrival, his unexpected echo, was either the key to filling it or the trigger for its catastrophic expansion. And Zareth, the heiress, was the only one capable of mediating this interaction. But his human frequency, his chaotic mix of emotions, was disrupting her. "What is it?" Jax managed, his voice tight. The emotional deluge was receding, leaving him shaky but strangely clearer-headed. He could feel his own current, distinct from hers now, turbulent but undeniably there. "It is grief," Zareth said, her voice hushed with wonder and recognition. "A deep well of sorrow, layered with defiance and hope. These are frequencies unknown to our alignment. Grief, defiance, hope." Translated, the words felt inadequate. She wasn't just reading surface emotions. She was perceiving core aspects of his being, things he rarely acknowledged even to himself. He thought of his lost crew, the mission gone wrong, the sheer improbability of his survival. Grief was certainly there, defiant against the hand fate had dealt him, maybe. Hope, he hadn't allowed himself much lately. "That's just being human, I guess," Jax said, a dry laugh escaping his lips. "We're a messy bunch. Lots of feelings all tangled up." Zareth's head tilted again, the movement echoing her earlier gesture. But this time it felt less like evaluation and more like intrigue. "Messy," she repeated, the translated word feeling foreign on her tongue. "Yet, potent. Your grief does not dim your light echo. It fuels a warmth I have not encountered." The warmth between their hands intensified again, but this time it felt different, less jarring, more reciprocal. She wasn't just sensing his emotions. She was interacting with them, resonating with them. He felt a strange calm settle over him. The fear hadn't vanished, but it was overlaid by a profound sense of shared vulnerability. This stoic, ritual-bound alien woman, who had been presented to him like dinner, seeing him, truly seeing him, in a way no one ever had. And in turn he was starting to see her, not just as an alien figure of ritual, but as a being with her own burdens, her own hidden depths. The silence in the cavern stretched, broken only by the low thrum of the hearth and the subtle shift of the watchers. The moment of fracture had passed, replaced by a fragile, unexpected connection. The ritual of unification hadn't gone as planned, but it hadn't failed completely either. It had simply become something else entirely, and he had a feeling their story was just beginning. The connection between Jax and Zareth lingered long after their hands separated, a faint echo of resonance thrumming beneath his skin. The immediate crisis of fracture seemed to have passed, replaced by a hesitant pause, resonant stillness, and the others watched them with a mixture of apprehension and something akin to awe. Zareth lowered her hands, her multifaceted eyes still fixed on him. The intense shimmer around her had subsided, but her inner light pulsed with a new, complex rhythm. The unification, incomplete. Resonant stillness stated, the translated words reflecting uncertainty. The echo's frequency is unexpected. The hunger is not appeased, but it is curious. Curious. Zareth's own thoughts, translated this time through the lingering mental link, resonated with that word. Her initial fears seemed replaced by a focused intensity, an almost scientific interest. This wasn't just a ritual obligation for her anymore. It was a profound mystery triggered by his arrival. "Curious is better than exacerbated, I guess," Jax said, trying for levity. "So what happens now? Do we try again, or is there a plan B for when the echo turns out to be a mess of human feelings?" Zareth looked at him, a faint, almost smile touching the edges of her lips. It was gone before he could be sure he saw it. "Your mess is revealing," she said, her voice still that low hum that bypassed his comms, direct to his awareness. The ancestral records did not anticipate a frequency layered with such paradoxes. Grief that fuels hope, defiance braided with acceptance. The translated words were more clinical. The records did not anticipate a paradox frequency. She turned to resonant stillness. The ritual of unification requires harmony, she stated, her voice regaining its formal tone for the others. But the echo's frequency is unique. It requires understanding, not force. Resonant stillness considered this, his light patterns dimming in thought. Understanding requires proximity. He finally conceded. The Harris in the echo must remain in resonance. To learn the depth of this unexpected current, remain in resonance. Zara's own interpretation felt like a silent agreement, laced with a subtle anticipation that sent a shiver down Jax's spine. This wasn't just about ritual anymore. It was about connection, forced connection perhaps, but a connection nonetheless. Proximity, Jax repeated. Okay, so I'm not going anywhere. Resonant stillness nodded slowly, until the echo and the vessel achieved clarity. You are bound to the hearth, bound to the heiress, bound to her. The phrase settled over him, heavy with implication. It wasn't just about his accidental arrival. It was about the ritual bond that had formed, however imperfectly, on the hearth. He wasn't just a guest or a captive. He was now ritually linked to Zareth, a forced pairing, driven by alien necessity and his own bad luck. He looked at Zareth again. She met his gaze, her multifaceted eyes holding a newfound depth, reflecting the paradoxes she'd sensed within him. The initial coldness was gone, replaced by a complex mix of duty, curiosity, and the lingering resonance of their shared emotional exposure. They were linked, whether they liked it or not, by a ritual they barely understood, facing a cosmic hunger in the watchful eyes of her people. This wasn't the mission he signed up for, not even close. But as he looked at Zareth, at the way her inner light pulsed in time with something new inside him, he had a strange feeling that getting home was no longer the most important thing. He was bound to her, and she to him, in this glowing, subterranean world. And the story wasn't just beginning. It was reshaping itself around them. All right then, Jax said, drawing a breath and letting it out slowly. Proximity it is. So, since we're gonna be hanging out, is there any chance we could revisit that whole food? Maybe something that isn't a ritualistic partner? Zara's lips curved upwards again, a clearer, more definite smile this time. It was brief, but it transformed her face, chasing away some of the ancient sorrow. The hum of her voice, now softer, replied, "The absence does not consume physical sustenance, Echo, but the vessel requires nourishment, and you are quite noisy when hungry." His comms translated it as, "The absence does not consume physical sustenance, but the vessel requires nourishment, and you are quite noisy when hungry." A flicker of dry humor, a shared understanding forged in the crucible of forced ritual. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be completely terrible. Days blurred into a strange rhythm within the subterranean archives. Jax wasn't confined, not in a traditional sense, but he couldn't leave the central cavern area where the resonant hearth pulsed. Zareth was his constant companion, bound by the ritual proximity. Their time was spent in a bizarre form of cultural exchange and experimental resonance. Zareth, driven by her intellectual curiosity and the weight of her duty, sought to understand the paradoxical frequency of his human emotion. She guided him through exercises near the hearth, attempting to deepen their connection and understand how his grief and hope could coexist and resonate. It was taxing, requiring him to lower his emotional barriers in a way that felt deeply uncomfortable, exposing parts of himself he usually kept locked down. He, in turn, tried to understand their culture, their rituals, the nature of the hunger below. Zareth, when speaking directly to him, that low hum bypassing the comms, was more open, shedding some of the formality she maintained for the elders. She explained that the hunger was not malevolent, but a state of decay, a fading of their collective consciousness that sustained their underground civilization. Their resonance rituals, once powerful, had weakened over cycles, leading to the stirring that his arrival had amplified. Her lineage was specifically tasked with bridging external connections, finding new sources of resonance. but they hadn't anticipated an echo so human. "Your memories are like storms," she said one cycle, as they sat near the hearth, the faint mental link active, turbulent, chaotic. Yet, within them I sense warmth, fierce loyalty, a desire to protect those you bond with. Your memories are turbulent, chaotic. Yet, within them I sense warmth, fierce loyalty, a desire to protect those you bond with. He had shown her glimpses of his past, through the resonance, fragmented images of Earth, his family, his crew. It felt incredibly intrusive, yet strangely intimate. "Yeah, well," Jax said, shrugging awkwardly, "that's kind of the point of being in a crew. You look out for each other. It's called teamwork. Or, not being a jerk." Zareth considered this, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the distant glow of the crystal formations. "Teamwork," she repeated, the word foreign yet intriguing. "A shared resonance, focused towards a common goal, without ritual prescription." "Exactly," Jax said. "You don't need a prophecy to decide to help someone. You just do it." He felt the faint hum of her thought, translating to a concept both simple and profoundly complex. Their conversations weren't always so heavy. He taught her about Earth food, leading to some truly bizarre attempts by the others to replicate his requests, none remotely resembling a medium-rare steak. About sports, about bad sci-fi movies. He learned about the different light patterns of her people, the subtle shifts in their luminescence that conveyed complex emotions and social status. He learned that Zareth, despite her role as heiress and her composure, carried the immense pressure of her lineage and the fear of failing to quieting the hunger. One cycle, a disturbance rippled through the cavern. The lights flickered, the low thrum of the hearth faltered. Panic flared in the faces of the watching elders. "The absence deepens," resonant stillness cried, his light patterns frantic. The rival line attempts sabotage. Zareth's composure snapped. Her body tensed, and a surge of raw power, a fierce, protective energy, flared from her, momentarily overwhelming their link. "The lineage of the barren sands," she hissed, her voice a low, dangerous growl that was pure, torrentate fury. "They seek to amplify the fraction." The rival bloodlines, they weren't just a political annoyance. They were actively working against Zareth and the ritual, seeing his arrival as an opportunity to seize power by plunging their civilization further into decay. The external conflict had arrived, directly threatening their fragile bond and forcing them closer. Jax felt a surge of adrenaline. He might not understand the cosmic hunger or alien resonance, but he understood conflict. He understood protecting someone he was beginning to care about. The energy disturbance subsided, but the threat remained. Zareth explained, her composure returning, though her inner light pulsed with suppressed anger. "The lineage of the barren sands believed that embracing the absence, becoming fully unconnected from the external universe, was their people's true destiny. They saw Zareth's attempt to bridge resonance through the ritual of unification as a betrayal of their core beliefs, and his arrival as a sign that the time for true separation had come. They couldn't directly harm Zareth or Jax within the sacred space of the Hearth Cavern, but they could manipulate the surrounding energy flows, weakening the hearth and exacerbating the hunger, hoping to force a catastrophic fracture. "They are fools," Zareth said, her voice low and intense. "They mistake decay for destiny, absence for purity." Jax listened, learning about the intricate web of rivalries and beliefs that defined their culture. He was no longer just an accidental tourist. He was caught in the middle of a millennia-old power struggle. "So they're basically trying to break the universe to prove a point," Jax summarized dryly. "Sounds about right. Humans do that too sometimes." Zareth didn't smile this time. "The consequences are significant," she stated. "If the hearth falters, the structures fail. Our world collapses, and the hunger consumes all. The hunger consumes all." This time, her echo felt cold, absolute. The stakes were impossibly high. It wasn't just about their bond anymore. It was about the survival of her entire people. "Okay," Jax said, pushing himself to his feet. "So how do we stop them? Just sitting here and hoping for harmony doesn't sound like a winning strategy." Zareth looked at him, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. His pragmatic, action-oriented approach was clearly different from her people's more ritualistic response. "The ritual of unification is the only path," she said. We must complete the merging. Achieve full harmony. Only then can the hearths strengthen and repel their influence. Right, Jack said, running a hand through his hair. Full harmony. With my messy human frequency. He looked at her. How do we do that? The hand-holding thing wasn't exactly smooth. Zareth hesitated, her inner light dimming slightly as if in contemplation. The initial contact established a preliminary link, she said, her voice softer now, the hum more pronounced, directed solely at him. To achieve deeper resonance, the merging must encompass all channels, physical, emotional, energetic. The merging must encompass all channels. The implication hung heavy in the air. Physical merging. With an alien woman who was bound to him by rich-forced intimacy, driven by the need to save her world from a cosmic void and rival bloodlines. His mind flashed to her earlier explanation of the ritual embrace. Not of physical pleasure, human. It is a merging of core frequencies, but achieving full harmony. That sounded like it went beyond just touching hands. Zareth met his gaze, her multifaceted eyes incredibly clear. There was no embarrassment, no coyness, only a deep, solemn acceptance of what was required. This wasn't about desire, it was about duty, about survival. The hearth amplifies intent, she stated, her voice regaining some formality, though the underlying hum of intimacy remained. It translates the resonance into structural stability, but it requires a complete circuit. The vessel and the echo, aligned in totality, a complete circuit, aligned in totality. The translated words left no room for misinterpretation. They had to achieve intimacy, physical and energetic, on the hearth. To save her world, it was the ultimate forced proximity, the highest possible stakes, and it was terrifying, and in a strange, twisted way, deeply compelling. He was a lost soldier. She was a ritual-bound heiress, and the fate of her people rested on their ability to merge. He looked at Zareth, at the quiet strength in her stance, the unwavering focus in her eyes. She was prepared to do this for her people, for her world. Could he? For her. Okay, Jack said, his voice low, accepting the insane reality of the situation. Okay, aligned in totality. Tell me what we need to do. Zareth led him back to the center of the cavern, towards the pulsing resonant hearth. The air around it thrummed with increased energy, amplified by the sabotage attempts of the Barren Sands lineage. The elders watched, their light patterns subdued, their hope visibly centered on Zareth and the strange human echo. The merging must be a surrender, Zareth stated, her voice the low hum that resonated directly with him. A release of individual frequencies into a shared current. It is vulnerable. It is vulnerable. She understood the implications, as much as he did. Ritual or not, this was exposure on every level. Vulnerable is an understatement, Jax muttered, but he kept walking towards the hearth. But I get it. Two signals trying to become one. You have to drop your defenses. Zareth stepped onto the platform, her movements fluid and graceful. She turned, facing the hearth's peak, then slowly turned to face him. Her luminous outer garment began to dim, the woven light fading to reveal a simple, form-fitting inner layer that pulsed softly with her own natural glow. It wasn't revealing by human standards, but it felt incredibly intimate, a stripping away of cultural barriers. The vessel must be open to the flow, she said, her eyes holding his. The echo must trust the current. Must trust the current. He stepped onto the platform with her. The crystal felt warmer now, vibrating with a deeper resonance. The soft light of Zareth's inner glow seemed to pull at him, a gentle gravitational force. She reached for him, her hands not extended palm to palm this time, but open, inviting. Come, she murmured, her voice a soft vibration that enveloped him. Find my core frequency and allow yours to be found. Allow yours to be found. He moved towards her. There was no hesitation in her eyes, only acceptance and profound purpose. This was their duty, their only path. As he reached her, she didn't take his hands. Instead, her arms circled him, drawing him close. He felt the soft, alien texture of her inner garment against his uniform, the warmth of her body against his. It was strange, alien, yet undeniably physical. Release your surface noise, she whispered again, the instruction from their first contact now carrying a different weight. Release the tension, the doubt, the fear. Release the fear. It was harder this time, not just emotional but physical. The instinct to brace, to resist, was strong. But he looked at Zareth, felt the steady, unwavering presence of her core frequency pulsing against him, and he consciously forced himself to relax. He wrapped his arms around her, awkwardly at first, then more naturally. He felt her sigh, a soft, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through his entire being. Good, she breathed. Now breathe with me, Echo. Let our currents align. Breathe with me. He followed her lead, matching his breathing to the subtle expansion and contraction of her chest. As they breathed together, a deep, soothing vibration began to emanate from her, flowing into him. It was the same sensation from their hand-holding, but amplified, more profound, encompassing his whole body. It wasn't just a feeling, it was a sense of Zareth's presence, filling him, accepting him. He felt the chaotic storm of his own emotions begin to calm, the surface noise dissipating like mist in the sun. In its place, his core frequency, his grief-fueled hope and defiant loyalty, began to resonate with her. Through the deepening link, he felt the full weight of the hunger below, not as a monster, but as an emptiness, a vast, aching void that pulsed beneath their world, yearning for connection. He also felt the malice of the barren sands lineage, a sharp, cutting current trying to sever the fragile link between him and Zareth. Zareth's body tensed against him. They push, she whispered, her voice strained. They seek to sever us. They seek to sever. This wasn't just a ritual. It was a battle fought, not with weapons, but with resonance, with connection. And their intimacy, this vulnerable merging, was their only defense. Hold on, Jax whispered back, tightening his grip on her. He didn't understand the physics of it, but he understood fighting for something precious. He focused on Zareth, on her core frequency, on the shared current they were building. He poured his own feelings into the link, not just the grief and hope she'd sensed, but a fierce protective determination he hadn't realized was so strong. He wouldn't let them break her. He wouldn't let them break them. The energy around them intensified, the thrum of the hearth rising to a powerful crescendo. Jax felt the pressure from the barren sands lineage bearing down, a cold, invasive force trying to unravel the warm, vibrant current he and Zareth were weaving. Zareth pressed closer, her body vibrating against his, her voice a low chant that resonated deep within him. "We are the bridge," she hummed. "The current flows through us. Feel the connection, Echo. Anchor us, anchor us, anchor them." He understood. He was the anchor, the stable point for their combined frequency against the external disruption. He focused on his core, on the grounding presence of his own being, on the powerful protective feelings he had for Zareth. He poured his defiance into the link, his refusal to yield, his absolute determination to keep their connection strong. It was a fight, not with fists or weapons, but with raw, emotional, and energetic will. He felt Zareth's strength mirroring his own, her resolve a steel core wrapped in luminous grace. Their combined current pushed back against the cold invasion. The hearth roared with power, the crystalline structures around them glowing with blinding intensity. It was terrifying and exhilarating, a merging of body, mind, and spirit on a level he had never imagined. Through the link, he felt Zareth's history, her burdens, her silent hopes. He shared with her his own, his longing for home, his quiet grief, his fierce, unexpected hope for this, for them. The moments stretched, a timeless struggle between connection and absence, between resonance and decay. Then, with a final surging wave of energy, the external pressure broke. The cold current recoiled, banished by the sheer power of their unified frequency. The hearth's thrum settled into a deep, steady pulse. The intense light subsided, leaving only the soft, warm glow of the cavern. Jax and Zareth remained locked in their embrace, breathing hard, the lingering resonance humming between them. The battle was over, at least for now, and they had won, not by fighting, but by uniting. Zareth pulled back slightly, her eyes meeting his. The mask of composure was gone, replaced by a raw, vulnerable openness that stole his breath. Her inner light pulsed brightly, no longer contained, but radiating outwards, warm and inviting. "We harmonized," she whispered, her voice soft, filled with wonder. We harmonized. It wasn't just the words. It was the depth of feeling behind them. The profound realization of what they had achieved together. Ja, Jack said, his own voice rough with emotion. We did. Their bodies were still pressed together, the physical connection now feeling less like a ritual necessity and more like exactly where he wanted to be. The intimacy born of survival and ritual had transformed into something else entirely. Desire, raw and undeniable, flared between them, layered over the deep resonance of their bond. This wasn't the not physical pleasure merging she'd described earlier. This was different. This was them. In the quiet aftermath, with the eyes of her people upon them, they found a new kind of connection on the hearth. It wasn't just about saving her world anymore. It was about the two of them bound together by fate, ritual, and the raw, unexpected power of a harmony forged in the face of absence. The cycles following the unification were a strange blend of cultural change and profound personal intimacy. The successful merging on the hearth had not only stabilized the energy flows and repelled the barren sand's immediate threat, but it had also sent a ripple effect through the entire underground civilization. Zareth, as the heiress who had achieved true resonance with an external echo, was suddenly elevated, her status shifting from ritual participant to transformative leader. The Barren Sands lineage was discredited, their philosophy of embracing absence proven catastrophically wrong. There was political upheaval, quiet maneuvering among the elders, but the core truth remained. Jax and Zareth, through their bond, had shown a new path. And that bond, forged in ritual and validated by crisis, was undeniable. Their forced proximity had become their accepted reality. They remained near the hearth, the source of their connection, but their interactions were no longer solely focused on resonance exercises. The vulnerability they had shared during the merging had irrevocably changed the dynamic between them. Zareth shed more of her formality, revealing layers of personality beneath the ritual-bound heiress. She possessed a sharp wit, a deep well of compassion she usually kept hidden, and a boundless curiosity about the universe outside her subterranean world, a curiosity that his presence had ignited. Jax found himself drawn to her in ways that went beyond the initial shock and duty. He admired her strength, her dedication to her people, the quiet beauty of her spirit. Their visions were now a blend of dry human humor clashing with her formal elegance, shared observations and slow, hesitant confessions about their pasts, their fears, their hopes for this improbable future. One cycle, sitting together near the hearth, the ambient glow casting shifting patterns on their faces, Zareth turned to him, her multifaceted eyes holding his gaze. The ritual of unification, it is meant to be permanent, she hummed, her voice soft, intimate. It is meant to be permanent, a bond that strengthens the lineage, creates new resonance. Jax understood the implication. The merging wasn't just a temporary fix. It was a form of marriage, a ritual completion that bound them together for life, both culturally and now personally. Permanent, he repeated, the word feeling immense. Ja, I figured as much. He didn't sound worried, not really, just contemplating the weight of it. He looked at her, at the luminous glow that pulsed gently beneath her skin, at the intelligence and warmth in her eyes. Is that what you want, Zareth? He asked, his voice low. Permanent? With me? Zareth reached out, her hand covering his. Her touch sent a familiar jolt of resonance through him, but it was softer now, more tender. I was bound by ritual, she stated, the translated words clear, but the resonance that was unexpected. Your messy frequency, it does not dim my light echo. It amplifies it. It does not dim my light. It amplifies it. Her hand tightened slightly on his. The hunger is still present, she continued, but it is no longer a consuming void. It is quieter, a space for new resonance to grow. She looked at him directly. And I wish for that resonance to grow with you. Jax Holden, I wish for that resonance to grow with you. It was a confession, delivered with a straightforward honesty that was uniquely her. She wasn't speaking of love in human terms, but of resonance, of amplification, of a bond that quieted the cosmic ache within her world. It was her way of saying she wanted him, permanent. A wave of emotion washed over Jax. Gratitude, relief, and a profound sense of belonging he hadn't felt in a long time. He was a lost soldier who stumbled into an alien world, and somehow, against all logic, He had found a home and a connection deeper than he ever thought possible, with a woman who saw his messy human parts and chose to resonate with them. "Yeah, Zareth," he said, his voice thick. "Yeah, I want that too, permanent, with you." He squeezed her hand, returning the silent promise. They were the unlikely echo and vessel, bound by ritual, forged in crisis, now choosing each other in the quiet aftermath. The future was uncertain, balancing his human world and hers, but for the first time since he fell from the sky, Jax felt like he wasn't just surviving, he was building something real. The formal completion of the ritual binding, their marriage in human terms, was a simple, profound pheromone on the resonant hearth. It wasn't a grand public spectacle, but an intimate gathering of the core elders who now supported Zareth's leadership. The rival lineage remained quiet, for now, defeated but likely not permanently silenced. The ceremony involved a final deep merging on the hearth, their resonance weaving together, solidifying the bond. This time, the intimacy was not born of panic or duty, but of conscious choice and growing affection. It was a blending of their core frequencies, a dance of light and shadow, human emotion and alien grace, that felt both sacred and intensely personal. Following the ritual, a symbolic bond mark was given, not etched onto their skin but woven into their shared energetic signature, visible only through the resonance. Zareth's inner glow pulsed with a new, steady rhythm, now intertwined with a faint, warm current that she explained was his echo signature, permanently integrated into her being. He, in turn, felt a subtle but constant connection to her, a reassuring hum beneath his own consciousness, a permanent tether to her and her world. It was the bond mark only given once, signifying a merging that transcended species. Life didn't instantly become easy. There were still vast cultural differences to navigate. Jax had to find a place for himself within their society, learning new skills that complemented their energy-based technology, helping to translate complex human concepts like resource management and contingency planning into their ritualistic framework. He became, in a way, a bridge himself, connecting their ancient world with the practical knowledge of his own. Zareth continued her work to stabilize the hearth and explore the nature of the hunger below, now with the unique perspective gained from their shared resonance. She was a leader, a scientist, and a paradox, an ancient heiress married to a human from a distant, noisy world. Their relationship was a constant negotiation between their distinct natures. Jax brought his dry humor, his directness, his occasional exasperation with alien bureaucracy. Zareth brought her quiet wisdom, her deep understanding of resonance, her serene strength that could still surprise him with flashes of intense emotion. They learned to anticipate each other's needs, to read the subtle shifts in light pattern or the inflections in his voice, to communicate through the lingering resonance as much as through spoken words. The hunger below remained, a quiet presence, but no longer a threat of immediate collapse. Zareth believed it could never be fully appeased, only understood and integrated. It was a fundamental aspect of their reality, a reminder of the universal yearning for connection that his arrival had illuminated. Their bond, their shared resonance, was the counterpoint to that absence, a small, vibrant flame in the deep dark. One evening, cycles after their bonding, they stood together overlooking a vast, silent chasm, the light of the cavern spilling into the darkness. "My ship," Jax said quietly. "My old life, sometimes I still think about it." Zareth took his hand, her luminous skin soft against his. "The echo resonates with its source," she hummed. "It is not absence, Jax Holden. It is memory. It is part of your current. It is memory. It is part of your current." He looked at her, at the profound acceptance in her eyes. He hadn't just stumbled into her world. He had found his current, his flow, intertwined with hers. He was still human, still Jax, but he was also part of something older, deeper, something luminous and resonated. "And my current is tied to yours now, Zareth," he said, squeezing her hand. "Wherever this goes." She leaned her head against his shoulder, her inner light pulsing warm against him. "Wherever the resonance flows," she agreed, the hum of her voice a promise. He had asked for a medium-rare steak, and been served an alien woman bound by ritual. It had been terrifying, absurd, and against all odds. The beginning of everything. The steak felt like a lifetime ago.